Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
1, 2, 3. The Donahue family counted. 4, 5, 6. The numbers changed on the banner at their Arden Road home in Nokesville, Virginia. The days turned into weeks, which turned into months, which turned into years. The number had reached over 5,000 before the Donahue family got the news that they had been waiting for. An arrest had been made in the murder of their son, Shane. On March 22, 2010, 23-year-old Shane Donahue left his parents' home and told them that he loved them. Shane, who didn't drive at the time, got a ride with his buddy Tim Hickerson. And Shane was never seen nor heard from again. Over the past 14 years, there have been many allegations made by both the Donahue and Hickerson families, but little in the way of answers or media coverage. Then, on September 17, 2024, Tim Hickerson was arrested in Florida for the murder of his friend, Shane Donahue. It marks the first major movement on this case in over a decade, but Shane's disappearance is far from being solved. When a person goes missing, there's a special kind of pain in the not knowing. I want to tell you the stories of those who never came home. Today, I want to update you on the story of Shane Donahue. I'm Kona Gallagher.
And I'm Ethan Flick.
And this is And Then They Were Gone. Welcome back, everyone.
Welcome back.
Thank you for joining us once again. I'm Kona.
And I'm Ethan.
And we're the husband and wife team behind this podcast. Each week, I tell you the story of an unsolved missing persons case. Ethan doesn't know anything about the case going into the episode, and he's here to provide his reactions and questions in real time, hopefully asking some of the same ones you have at home. Now, of course, this is an update episode, so you have heard of the case, but it's been 4 years since we did our episode on this case.
Oh, wow. It's really been that long.
Yeah, we did this. It was one of our very first episodes, season 1, and it was released in October of 2020.
Wow. Well, I guess I should shout out our fans. Thank you for listening and subscribing and keeping us afloat for so long.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we've celebrated, we didn't even talk about it, but yeah, we had our 4-year anniversary over the summer.
That's wild. I can't believe we've been doing this long.
I know, like 200 episodes too. But yeah, it's crazy because just recently we've had update after update on cases that we've been following that have been mysteries for years and even decades in some cases. We just had a major update in the Asia Degree case, which we covered a few weeks ago. That was from 2000. And this week we have a major update in the Shane Donahue case, which is from 2010. Both of these updates came as a shock, but are extremely exciting. Just if for nothing else, the fact that it shows that no matter how long ago a person went missing or how cold the case may seem, there's always hope for answers. So this week, we're going to be talking about the arrest of Tim Hickerson and what that means going forward in this Shane Donahue case. Unfortunately, this will be a short episode because we don't have a ton of information yet, but this is something that we'll be following closely as it progresses through the justice system, especially because it's another local case for us.
But yeah, since it's local to us, you'll be going to all of the court cases and providing updates via...
Yeah, mainly on TikTok, but then I also upload those videos to YouTube as well for people who don't have TikTok or can't use it, which is basically what I've been doing in the Monte Kafle case. So we've done 2 episodes on Monte Kafle, who is also local to us, same county as this. These are both Prince William County, and beyond our episodes, I've been doing regular updates over on TikTok as well and attending all of those hearings. In the case that her husband is dealing with right now, which is not homicide, but concealing a dead body. So I fully intend to do the same for Tim. But with that one, we have a whole extradition issue, which is part of what we'll be talking about today.
Okay, let's get into it.
All right. Okay, but real quick before we do, we've had some folks join us over on Patreon, so we can't get started without giving them a shout out. So thank you to Saya M., Kathleen W., Jessica K., and Skylar W. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you all so much.
And remember, if you join us there on any level, starting at just $2 a month, you can get these episodes ad-free and also get a free copy of the ebook that I wrote. Okay, so now
let's get into
the update on Shane Donahue. Now, I am going to just do a quick recap on Shane's case, but I'm also re-releasing our original episode with the caveat.
I was going to say poor recording quality and all.
Yeah. I did go back and try to clean up all of the episodes, so they're better than when they were first released, but still a little rough. And, I was very new at this. So
go easy on us.
Yeah, please. It was one of our very first episodes. And
I would imagine I probably didn't speak very much in that episode either.
I don't know. So I am re-releasing it though, so you can get kind of a bigger picture. But I am going to do a quick recap as well. So in 2010, Shane Ryan Donahue, or Bubba, as his parents called him, was a 23-year-old living in Nokesville, Virginia. He had his own place, but lived very close to his parents on Arden Road. On March 22nd, Shane had some tile work for Colgan Air and had just been paid $5,000 in cash. His buddy, Tim Hickerson, helped him with the job, so Shane gave him $1,000. Shane and Tim stopped by his parents' house like he often did. They were just hanging out when, according to his mother, Shane suddenly said, quote, "Mom, I've got to go," end quote. Shane told his mother that he loved her, and he and Tim left the house at approximately 3:40 p.m. Now, by this point in his life, Shane had been found guilty of several traffic infractions, including reckless driving and operating an uninsured vehicle, so his license had been suspended. So Tim was driving him around that day. When Shane's parents last saw him, he was leaving with Tim in one of the Hickerson brothers' box trucks. Shane was expected to come back to his parents' house that evening for dinner, but he didn't show. By the next day, when they still hadn't heard from him, they knew something was wrong. When they tried calling him, both of his phones went straight to voicemail, so the next day, on March 23rd, they stopped by his house. When they arrived, the TV and lights were all on, but there was no sign of Shane. The Donahues reported Shane missing, and Prince William County Police started an investigation. In the early days and weeks, they searched Shane's duplex and used luminol and other technology to look for blood or other signs of foul play, but came up empty-handed. They also interviewed Tim Hickerson, but according to him, he dropped Shane off at home and had no idea what happened after that. After the initial search, there really weren't a ton of clues, and so both families took to the internet. Many accusatory posts were made, causing deep divisions within the community. The Hickerson family is well known in Nokesville. At the time, they owned Hickerson Brothers Electric Service, and Tim's father, Brian Hickerson, was the longtime chief of the Nokesville Volunteer Fire and Rescue Department. Because of this, the Prince William County Police were accused of brushing this case and Tim Hickerson's involvement under the rug. So you had one side convinced that Tim Hickerson did something to Shane and that police were helping him cover it up, and the other side saying that Shane was a drug dealer who got murdered by someone else. Now, I won't go so far as to say that Shane being a drug dealer is a fact, as his criminal record only shows 2 arrests for possession of marijuana, which hardly makes you a drug kingpin. But it does seem fairly likely, just based on kind of reading between the lines of a lot of other information, that he was supplementing his income by dealing on some level. It is because of this that the main alternate theory of this case is that Tim Hickerson did drop Shane off that day, but that either someone was waiting for Shane at his home or he just ran into someone nefarious later in the day. While we do know that Shane's phones were turned off or went dead shortly after he left his parents' house, that doesn't necessarily mean that whatever happened to Shane happened in that short window. He could have chosen to turn his phones off for any number of reasons. There is also evidence that Shane had recently been targeted, but by whom? Just 2 days before his disappearance, Shane's home was broken into by what news reports called acquaintances.
Okay.
The burglars were allegedly looking for cash and stole medications. A post in Fairfax Underground does name names, and one of them is Tim Hickerson. So if this is true, and Tim did break into Shane's house to steal money, it does make it seem at least a little more likely that on March 22nd, he had his eyes on the $4,000 that Shane still had.
Right. And potentially whatever other drugs he had at his house.
Right. Then from there, it's certainly possible that something violent occurred. But, this is all just speculation, of course, and soon, despite searches with cadaver dogs and multiple witness interviews, Shane's case went cold. Then, just a few months after Shane's disappearance, Timothy Hickerson was arrested, but not for anything to do with this case. On May 30th, 2010, Tim was arrested for robbing Virginia Arms Company, a gun store in Manassas. After his arrest, detectives told reporters that they were able to link Tim to several other area burglaries. In December of 2010, Hickerson was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for these robberies. This arrest just further cemented Tim Hickerson's guilt in the minds of the Donahue family and their supporters. But in terms of evidence, nothing new was seemingly recovered. Tim Hickerson was eventually let out of prison and left the state to start over. He lived in the Outer Banks for a while before settling in Palm Coast, Florida. For years, the case went quiet, but those driving on Arden Road would continue to see the days tick up on Shane's banner. Then, on September 17th, 2024, we all got huge news. On that day, Tim Hickerson was driving when he was pulled over for running a red light. What would have been a minor inconvenience for most people turned out to be life-altering for Tim. Just days prior to this traffic stop, a warrant had been issued out of Virginia for his arrest. According to arrest documents, a warrant for murder, second degree, and burglary at nighttime to commit felony was signed on September 13th. After his arrest, Tim was transported to the Flagler County Sheriff's Office for an interview with Prince William County Police and was then transported to the jail to await extradition.
So murder and burglary.
And burglary.
What evidence could they have come up with 14 years later that links him both to murder and burglary that wasn't there before? The burglary part, murder, I get,
yeah.
You uncover some sort of new evidence or whatever that links him to either a body or whatever. But what new evidence do you find 14 years later for burglary?
I know, that's the million-dollar question. On the day of his arrest, the Prince William County Police put out a press release, which read in part, quote, "In spring 2024, detectives reactivated the investigation, re-examining every detail of the case from scratch, including revisiting interviewed parties and digital evidence in greater detail due to advances in analytical technology and modern police investigative practices. The victim and an acquaintance identified as the accused were last seen leaving the victim's parents' home together, reportedly returning to the victim's nearby residence in the 12,000 block of Arden Road. The victim was not seen or heard from again. Although the victim's remains have not been located, he is presumed deceased. During the investigation, the accused was connected to a burglary that occurred at the victim's residence just days prior to his disappearance. In September 2024, following the investigation, Prince William County detectives obtained arrest warrants for the accused, identified as Timothy Sean Hickerson, who would have been 28 years old at the time of the victim's disappearance." End quote.
Advanced analytical what?
All right, we've had a lot of new listeners. So for people who don't know, what do you do for a living?
I'm a police officer.
But you're not a local...
Correct. I'm a federal police officer.
Okay, I didn't know how much you wanted to say.
I'm a federal police officer, so I have zero experience doing any type of investigation.
Right. So you're not a local. You're not the one who's like, looking into burglaries and homicides or anything like that. But I feel like you all go to the same trainings.
I mean, for the most part, I haven't been to any like investigative school
Sure.
because that's not pertinent to my job. But there were a lot of trainings on basic investigations just through, the basic academy and that sort of thing. And obviously, like, I'm still a police officer. Like, I get updates on technology advancements and things of that nature. So I'm curious what more information you have about this.
Well, we don't really have any, but I am just dying over the advances in modern police investigative practices. What has happened since 2010 that has advanced modern investigative police practice? I mean, DNA, obviously, like DNA technology has advanced significantly since 2010.
Yeah, I mean, that could be. I the way I read that, though, is more better questioning techniques, and maybe somebody flipped, or maybe a witness, air quotes, gave more information because of the way the new detectives were questioning them.
Yeah, I could see that happening for sure.
Because there has been a lot of change in interrogation techniques.
Yeah. Going away from the read technique.
Yes. Specifically going away from the read technique because of all of the
false confessions.
All of the false confessions that could come out of using those techniques.
Right. I'm just a little cynical generally, but this, as soon as I read this, it made me think of what Loudoun County said when they finally arrested Ronald Roldan in the Bethany Decker case. And that's another case that's local here that we've covered on the podcast before. And they're like, oh yeah, we had all this new technology, and they legitimately did not. Like, all of the evidence that they used on this guy was available on day one. They just didn't. Right. So I don't know if that's what we're seeing here.
It could be. There could be some sort of advancement in technology. I don't know. We don't know what specifically they're talking about.
We don't, because they have been very close-lipped about all of this, which, I mean, makes total sense.
Yeah.
They don't want to like give up everything that they've got right now.
It could also be just something as simple as a new detective, new set of eyes.
Yeah.
Re-interviewing somebody, and it's like, oh, we didn't get that information the last time.
Yeah, and people change in 14 years, and that's why it's so important to have fresh eyes on these cases and have people questioning old witnesses, because your station in life changes, like, yeah, maybe a lot of the people who are involved in this were kids in their early 20s who are kind of doing drugs and like dealing drugs maybe, and didn't want to talk to the police for obvious reasons.
Exactly.
And had a lot of shit to hide. But 14 years later, maybe they're on a different path in life.
Yeah.
I think that there's a good chance that they have actually gotten a lot of new information in this case, because this is the type of case where, because partially it was in such a small town and, it involved drug dealing and, kind of other things, like there's a good possibility in my mind that whoever killed Shane, there were other people who were possibly involved, but maybe even if they weren't involved, like kind of knew what was going on or, things like that. And going back to the original burglary, which police have now charged Tim with, like I said in their little recap, the newspapers said that it was acquaintances who performed this.
And you said that on some forum somebody had implicated Tim, right?
Yeah, but like other people as well.
Right. I don't know when that post was written on that forum, but it might not have been knowledge that the original investigators had at the time.
Well, I think it was, but it was all just kind of rumors and small town gossip,
Sure. Maybe this new cold case detective found out who wrote some of those posts and went and interviewed them.
Yeah, maybe.
And that could be the the break in the case that they needed.
Yeah. Whatever it was, they felt that it was enough to charge him, again, not only with murder, but with this burglary, which I feel like is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
And they were able to get a fugitive warrant.
Yeah, an extraditable warrant, across state lines, that's huge.
So for people who are not familiar with state-to-state extradition, myself included, I expected Tim to be shipped up to Virginia for the pretrial hearings to begin. However, that's not exactly what happened. In fact, as of this recording, nearly a month after Tim's arrest, he is still sitting in a Flagler County, Florida jail because he's apparently fighting extradition. So I heard that he was fighting extradition because I ran into Cher, a reporter with the Prince William Times, in the courthouse when we were there for one of Nourish Bod's hearings. And she said that she had heard that and later wrote a story on it. So I did a video of that, but I couldn't figure out why he was trying to fight extradition, what he was hoping to accomplish with that.
Yeah, that seems odd because it doesn't get you anything.
Yeah, it's just kind of delays things. And I just wasn't sure about the motivation behind that.
And to be honest with you, I didn't even think that was something that could be done. I didn't think that you could fight extradition on a warrant.
Yeah.
They got you. They're coming to get you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, apparently you can. And there's one very administrative way to do it. And that's not what he was doing, because I did look into it a little bit. But you can fight it just based on saying, you've got the wrong guy. You're actually looking for somebody else with my name. This isn't actually me.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So there are different avenues in order to fight extradition, but that is one of them. So after a week or so of no movement on Tim Hickerson's case, because every morning I would wake up and I'd go and check Flagler County to see if anything new had popped up. And then I'd check Prince William County to see if anything had popped up. And there was nothing in either county. So I called Flagler to see if they had more information. The person I spoke with at their courthouse said that on their end, the case is closed and that they were just waiting for Virginia to come get them. So I then contacted the Prince William County Police, and they responded, quote, "Last information we had was he was opposing extradition," end quote.
But Florida is saying that they're just waiting for Virginia to come get him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I asked Prince William a few follow-up questions, and, this was over email, and I got this response, quote, "We do not have further on the matter." I guess further information is what they meant to say.
Okay.
"Once he is cleared for extradition, arrangements will be made for his return here," end quote.
In other words, stop bothering us.
Yes,
Got
very
it.
much so.
Yeah.
So I did, but I thought that was weird. But again, I don't know, maybe that's normal for neither county to know what's going on. So during this, I was speaking with someone who knows Tim Hickerson, who wishes to remain off the record. I did, however, get their permission to say that as far as they knew, he was not fighting extradition and fully expected to get sent back to Virginia to face these charges. And when we were having this initial conversation, they hadn't spoken with him yet, but they're like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. That, why would he fight this?
Right.
Then they did speak with him, a day or two later. And even after that conversation said that they didn't know what was going on or why he was just sitting in Florida with no hearings scheduled in either state. They had no idea what was happening, but they said, well, I guess, this is a good time to find a lawyer.
I mean, yeah, that's wild though. Some clerical error somewhere happened and now dude's just sitting in jail.
That's what it sounded like.
Wow.
Tim Hickerson remained in legal limbo for weeks, just cooling his heels down in Florida, while Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton ravaged the state. Tim's family used this time to find an attorney, and on October 4th, there was a notice sent to the Florida state's attorney that they hired Ken Ulick of Ulick Law. Now, this is a Florida-based firm, so I'm thinking that this is who will be representing him between now and his extradition back to Virginia.
And then maybe a lawyer up here will
take on the criminal case, yeah. On October 15th, R.J. Larissa, the state attorney for the 7th Judicial Circuit in Florida, filed a motion for extension of time for extradition warrant. According to Florida law, with an extradition warrant, you have 30 days to get the defendant back to the state where they are supposed to be standing trial. One extension is allowed, making that total 60 days. So that's what the state is requesting here. According to the motion, quote, the defendant attended a waiver of extradition hearing on September 18th, 2024, at which time he refused to waive his right to arrest under a governor's warrant, end quote. So basically, if you fight extradition, that means you're not accepting the arrest from the arresting agency, in this case, Prince William County Police. You want it to be signed off on by the governor. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin signed off on the warrant, and on October 7th, 2024, it was sent to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for his signature. The state attorney is requesting the extension because the initial 30 days would be up on October 17th, and it might not be signed by then. But then on October 16th, the day before the warrant expired, the judge did grant the motion, and so now they have until November 17th to extradite him back to Virginia.
So it sounded like he was fighting extradition?
That's what it sounds like. They said that in the motion, it said that he attended a hearing and refused to waive his right to arrest under a governor's warrant.
Huh. I wonder if there was some misunderstanding of what he was waiving, or not waiving, I should say.
That's what it sounds like. So from people, on Tim's side, that's what it sounds like. They're still saying clerical error. The motion makes it sound like he, willingly was fighting extradition. So I don't know.
But either way, it means that he's just been sitting in jail for a month and could still be there for a little while longer before he even makes it up to Prince William for his initial appearance. Wow.
The waiting is tough for both the families of Shane and Tim. The Donahues have been waiting for justice for 14 years and faced the loss of his sister Cheyenne in the intervening years. Now, I do want to address something real quick. In our original episode, I did say that Cheyenne died by suicide, which was a conclusion that I drew from her obituary, and I do read that in the episode. However, since that episode aired back in 2020, I've gotten some emails saying that that was not the case.
Okay.
But regardless of how Cheyenne died, she was only 28 years old, and it's a horrible tragedy for a family already beset by tragedy. Shane's mother, Donna, was fighting cancer when her son disappeared, and I've been told that the cancer has returned.
Oh, God. Really?
Yeah. Though Tim Hickerson is the most obvious suspect in Shane's disappearance and presumed murder, he absolutely has his supporters who believe that he's innocent of these charges. No one disagrees that Tim wasn't exactly a stand-up guy in his youth, but despite the fact that he was arrested on a fugitive warrant, he hasn't been in hiding or anything like that. He got out of prison after about 4 years and decided to just start over. It doesn't appear as though he's been in any legal trouble since then, and he's just been living a quiet life. He got married about 5 years ago to a woman with adult children, and until September 17th, 2024, was just living in Florida with a pretty low-key lifestyle. He has family and friends who completely believe in his innocence and are devastated by his arrest. Though obviously they don't want Tim Hickerson to be in jail, his arrest can be kind of looked at in a positive light on both sides, to varying degrees, of course.
Okay.
To the Donahues, the man they believe killed Shane is finally being forced to answer for what he did. For Tim Hickerson, if he's guilty, he got 14 extra years to live a life. 14 years to live, travel, and fall in love, none of which Shane was afforded. But on the flip side, if he's innocent, he's been living for 14 years with a cloud of suspicion over his head. Not exactly on the run, but not exactly welcome in the town where he grew up either. This trial could be his opportunity to clear his name once and for all. So I don't know, it's really tough because, again, he is the most obvious suspect.
Right.
And the thing that's always stuck with me and a lot of other people about this was that Shane's phones were off like within 10 minutes.
It really makes you wonder what they were doing.
Right.
Like, I can't imagine that things would have had to have happened so quickly.
And to go from hanging out at his parents' house to what would presumably be like a violent altercation that led in murder in such a short period of time does seem a little crazy.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not outside of the realm of possibility.
Absolutely not.
But especially if you're potentially considering that his intention was not to kill him, but to rob him of the money or whatever else he was going after. But all of it it seems crazy, because even if something like that did happen, to not have any evidence of it, you know?
Right. And so I think that's going to be
forensic evidence, I should say.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's going to be the biggest thing once we get into the hearings on this case, because, they had to have had probable cause, obviously, to get these warrants.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see what they do have, other than the fact that Tim was the last person that was seen with him.
Yeah. It also says, there were multiple people involved with the robbery.
Right.
So where are those arrests?
Right, exactly. And, again, there are, of course, more rumors flying around now, but I don't really want to get into all of that, especially because we have court dates coming up.
Yeah,
exactly. We'll
get
actual
all of this information
facts
as it's being discussed in the court cases.
Yeah, so I don't really want to get into a few things that I've heard since then. The one thing I do want to point out is there are rumors that, are definitely not true, which I saw on the internet like right after the arrest, which is that police dredged a pond on the Hickerson property and found Shane's body in a car.
Okay, where did that even come from?
Who knows? But obviously that's not the case.
Yeah.
Shane is still missing, and he wasn't driving a car, so there's no reason why he would have been in a car.
Right.
So yeah, so like that is not true. But beyond that, there's a lot more, there are a lot more rumors going on that like I said, I just don't think we really need to get into, because we're going to find out relatively soon
what
at
the
least
information
some
is
of
that
what
they
the
have.
police have. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's going to be tough too, because clearly Prince William does think that they have enough to get a conviction. The Donahues have been very vocal for the past 14 years about Tim Hickerson's involvement and their belief in that. But we've also seen cases in which, a grieving family gets so focused on who they think committed this crime that they can't let it go, even if it's shown that that person didn't. Right. So, and that's not, I'm not saying that that's what's going on here. We just simply do not know.
Right.
But one way or another, it does seem as though we're going to get some sort of conclusion in this case. And that's always good news in any of these long-time unsolved cases. Once Tim Hickerson is extradited back to Virginia and his court proceedings begin, I'll be right there following along. So we'll keep you updated as hopefully this mystery is solved at long last. Shane Donahue has been missing from Nokesville, Virginia since March 22, 2010. He is a white male with brown hair and brown eyes. He was 5'11" and approximately 180 pounds at the time of his disappearance. He was 23 when he went missing. He would be 38 today. Anyone with information regarding Shane Donahue's disappearance is urged to contact the Prince William County Police Department at 763-792-7279. You can see all the sources for this episode along with photos and videos at our website, andthentheywere.gone.com.
And be sure to follow us on social, and Then They Were Gone Pod on Facebook and at ATTWG Pod on Instagram and TikTok. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe and consider leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It will help new listeners find us. And the more people that listen, the more chances we have of bringing someone home.
And we'll see you here next week for a brand new episode.
See you next week.
And Then They Were Gone is hosted by Kona Gallagher and Ethan Flick. All research, writing, and editing is done by me, Kona Gallagher. Theme music is The Stork by Ketsa. Additional music is provided by Kai Engel. And Then They Were Gone is a Little Monster production.